Yes. Okay, then call this meeting to order. And looking at this for public hearings, we have none scheduled.
Correct.
So Planning Commission matters, update on EOA process.
And the housing capacity analysis. So council did finally vote on the ordinance for the EOA. So the first presentation is done. We'll do a second presentation as normal for ordinances at their next council meeting. That will then, chapter 5, chapter 2 of the EOA will go to the state. I have to give them the package, and then it becomes their decision to adopt it or not. Once they do confirm, then it's done. Which we expect, because we haven't heard anything from BLCD. It also opens the window for that next round of appeals if someone wants to do that, but we're not expecting at this point. Housing capacity analysis, they are right now pulling together the contextualized part. So what this, the new way they do housing analysis, they don't just count what you have and count what you need. They really dig in to count actually the types of units you need and all these different, they call it a contextualized housing analysis. So they're deep into that. They're going to have a draft eventually. I think we'll talk about it next week. And then I think that will probably kick off our first meeting to review their so far what they've come up with. The housing analysis, the whole purpose of it is just to so 3J is the consultant that is working for the state to do our analysis, which we're supposed to do now every 8 years. This is our 6th year, so we have to kind of work on it through our 6th year. We'll go through, adopt it next year in our 7th year, so it's on time for the 8th year. And then we'll jump into our housing production strategy, if that still exists by that time. We'll see how much this changes. But the whole purpose is just to figure out, it's just like an EOA for housing. They've just made it more difficult trying to really dial into what these certain needs are. There's another section of it called, how did they put it? Ready lands, basically lands that are ready to be developed. There's all these definitions trying to figure out what that means. And I was like, well, all lands are ready to be developed. I mean, you just have to have enough money to do it. What do you mean? What are we supposed to count? What are we not supposed to count? And so that's part of it. I don't know why they're digging into that much, but it gets a little obnoxious sometimes to try to figure these things out. And eventually get to an analysis that says, okay, these are the type of housing you need, low end, high end, how much in the middle. And then the idea is the state wants to take these things and create targets so that we don't build housing. So we've always complained, like, we don't build housing. So how are we supposed to meet a housing target if we don't build it? But the idea is that communities have to hit a target within so many years of how many houses they build. And if they can't do it, they need to figure out why. Well, free market, that's why.
Yeah.
So that's their strategy. And so that right behind this housing capacity analysis is supposed to be this housing production strategy that we adopt. And part of that is a lot of different incentives. It could be code updates, it could be tax incentives, it could be all these different things that the council has a choice to choose from to increase their production. Now, we have already done this. Our production is actually quite a high. We've come way down from where we were in what they have rental. Trying to remember how our terminology they keep using. They base it all on how expensive rentals are for people. So how much pressure is there for people to rent homes and your pricing and everything? And we've actually come down from being like 22% rental restricted. You know, we're having a tough time now. I think we're 15. We've been progressively moving down. I expect the apartments to help out quite a bit. Those will open next month. So hopefully we'll come down to a point where our targets are pretty low and we're going to hit them anyway. And it won't be a problem. So that's what we'll look at for those two items. The second thing, website update. So this is something, our website's really old. It's going live in 2 days, or on the 18th. It'll be a whole new website, basically look the same, but it has more functionality, and we'll try to improve how we populate our pages. And so we might start pushing out a little more what applications. I'm thinking potentially that we actually have a page where we show what applications are live. When you start doing something, you got to maintain it and you got to keep it going. So I'm trying to think about how to process things like that. Maybe put up a project page if we know where the infrastructure stuff is going on, so people can look instead of calling and wondering. So we're going to try to make a little more improvements on that. Might try to improve our planning commission page and how things get. It's going to be a little bit of a learning curve because everything is different in how we add things and use things. So hopefully I don't screw it up the first time.
So you're using a different platform?
It's the same, yes, in a way. It's the company that we originally started with has been bought or something twice. Anyway, it's Civic Plus. So they took our old site and they basically just kind of updated it. It looks roughly the same kind of menus and things, but we have more ability to change it. We're hoping to make that a little bit better. So if you see something different or something's not working, I missed clicking a button. I don't know. I'm hoping the notices and the publications still go out properly and all that kind of stuff, but we're gonna have to test it and see how it works. So our meeting on July 21st will be the first meeting that we have used the new website. And it just so happens we're gonna have two things on that meeting that are pretty large, so it'll be a good test. So see that coming.
Call in during the day so that I can figure out how to get my email back up and running again. I don't know what's going on.
Okay. Outlook. So you're having trouble logging in?
No, it's not. Yeah. No, I have to call in during the day, probably.
If you call it, yeah, because if we have to reset the password, I can just have Daryl do that. And we can just reset it
Daryl.
and get you logged back in. Because sometimes it's just a timeout thing with I just had to change my password again. And it times out after 6 months or so. But
It
that
hasn't asked me to change mine, so
it doesn't
I'll
ask you,
hear that though,
don't do
right?
it, don't do it, yeah. But sure, yeah, let me know. Or I can just, I mean, it's just your first less, we can just try to log in and maybe I'll just change it and tell you what it is and then.
I need to do it from my computer so that I can follow the path.
Okay, okay. Do you know what you have all your credentials and you know what your user and password is. You just need to figure out how to get it. Okay, we can do that.
So are you going to Office 365 to log in?
And then, right.
Yeah, outlook.com. Log in just like you do for any Microsoft
Yeah.
stuff, but okay.
Just did an update and
All right, we can do that. That's all I had for matters.
Okay, anything the commission would like to discuss?
Well, I was surprised to hear that Mayor Beebe resigned.
Yeah, that was abrupt, not surprising to me, but abrupt. I didn't know it was coming.
I don't know when he submitted his resignation, but it was effective yesterday.
It was pretty recent, I think over the weekend or something, but he's something he's talked about before. It wasn't too surprising for staff. He's got a lot going on and I think I don't know, there's an article I think that was coming out. I assume he'll eventually say why, but life goes on.
What I read said that he was for personal reasons, that's all.
Yeah,
Right.
That's the only,
that's all I've seen.
Yeah. So I don't know if he'll eventually expand on that or just let it lie. But
I started to send a
Right.
sarcastic email to Steve today to say congratulations, Mr. Mayor.
right.
He didn't want to
he's
do
gonna
that.
he's gonna jump right back into it. Yeah. So at least we have someone who's been mayor before, just jumps right in and he takes off. So it's not a huge shakeup. Anything else? Okay,
Well, update on development and city projects.
I'm gonna try to
Looks
do
like-
this relatively.
South Main looks pretty darn good today.
South Main should be up. We're gonna hold off on North Main until all the rodeo and street party and all that stuff is done, and then we're gonna do the North Ave. Which will help. I think are we sharing screens, Daryl? Yeah. Okay. So brief list, I got just to run through things. And I got a PDF I wanted to show you guys from some of the things we're working on. Apartments are getting ready to open July 1. These apartments here should be open. We're trying to get this bridge opened at the same time. If some people ask why we haven't opened that bridge yet, it's because of insurance purposes. It wasn't listed on ODOT's site or their inventory. It wasn't listed on our inventory, so it wasn't on our insurance. So therefore, it had to be inspected, and we got the inspection done. We just have to make sure it's on our insurance and we can get a load rating for it before we open it. That's why it's sitting there. Should be fine. It was inspected when we originally took it over. It's just for some reason it was an oversight. So those, at least this building here should open in July, followed by this building here. Then this one, clubhouse, the rest of it. And then hopefully if that fills up and does well, they'll just start on their second phase over here. So that's working pretty well. On the opposite side of town, those apartments are working slower, but you can see the progress they've made. There's quite a few buildings coming up. I kind of expect them more to be in the fall if they get to that where they open up a building.
Looks like the building they're working on right now might be a clubhouse. Or
Yes,
something.
the one up front is the clubhouse. That's the one that's sitting right here, real close to the road. That's the clubhouse. So we'll work. Hopefully those will come along. Laughlin Road, of course, we've talked about before. Those are almost all complete. I do expect Rooted Homes to eventually come in and apply for their project here. Be about 30 townhomes in that condo style. So a lot of them, that multifamily, more high density type projects are still moving forward that we've talked about in the past. One of the things, another project we are working on, and this has kind of been ongoing, is this we call kind of the North End Smith Landing property. We've talked about this before. The big issue we have, we need to get Peters Road from here to here. And right now, what we have is we have these competing routes. The black is what we thought would naturally happen with development. You bring the road through the development up and around, and you just progressively build it through. Problem with doing that is it's a major collector. This is like Combs Flat and Peters Road, so it's much larger. We don't want driveways backing straight onto it because it's going to move. It's going to be kind of our northern collector. And when you do that, you create alleys and you create frontage roads and you use up a lot of space for these other things. And they're like, well, can we just move the road down here? Move the road down there. Who builds it? Because now the development doesn't need it. And so there's this kind of back and forth on how we make this happen. The lower route actually has some advantages in traffic needs and actually moving people through and get them away from the neighborhoods. It also has some advantages in drainage and construction, all kinds of things. So it is kind of what we're looking at moving towards rather than doing this up here. We just got to kind of, I think we're going to have to go through council and say, because in the short term, that's a cost to the city. It's not something they're going to build right away. So it's something kind of going to be like Combs Flat where we bought the property and we figure out how to get it made. I have this picture to kind of show the routes. These are actually surveyed. City's been doing quite a bit of work trying to figure out where these different routes could go. And this is the one we're kind of landing on. Primarily because it keeps it low. It brings it by next to the canal, which is unusable anyway, so we can kind of do the same thing we did on Combs Flat where we'd pipe ryegrass. It opens up the Crawford property a little bit more since this is so high and steep. It actually allows them to get access from below. It doesn't bring it through any of the neighborhoods. It goes basically from rail along the canal. This is industrial and commercial, and we'll actually end up changing a lot of these zones up here if this is the route they take and kind of create these commercial lots and industrial lots below, residential above. That's the concept. But we need to figure out if that's a viable route and where we move to. And then that will open up kind of they're ready to submit. They have a project they want to go on. We just have to figure that out, get the roundabout built. It also frees them up a little bit to build their roundabout and use the STC credits they get for the house on the homes to build the roundabout. And then they can get so that'll kind of where we're leading towards. So if anybody asks what's happening, that's kind of what's going on right now.
So that would be their responsibility to build that,
Yeah,
but it would end
right there.
within their development. It wouldn't go on through.
They would just come down, and that way they're not building any throwaway right here. Because if they just did an initial offset T for the first, say, 20, 30 homes, and then they built the roundabout, now how do you get the people out while you're building a roundabout in the middle of the intersection? So the roundabout would be helpful to have up front with the first phase. It would just come down, and then they would have a road that kicks off into their development.
Okay.
And it would just be there that way. And then we would eventually finish this somehow.
Yeah, but I mean, what I'm saying is your black line there, the top line.
Yep.
Would not go
Nope.
all the way through.
Nope, it would connect right here. And it wouldn't be a major collector, it'd just be a normal residential street. So that's what we're working on. So when this eventually comes to you for a subdivision, you're probably gonna see this lower road or some version of this thing and go, why did that happen? There's just a lot of negotiations going on between 1, 2, 3, 4 different property owners. And then kind of the city on how this gets funded. So a little more difficult than it needs to be, but I think at the end of the day, we'll have a better product. So that project is happening. Got a couple of industrial projects going up on the hill, a shell build, a small data factory. I can show you where they're going in. They're going to build another industrial, kind of like what you see here, kind of a shell industrial buildings that people can lease and rent for various things. You can move walls and get bigger units if you want. So that's going to happen here. And then it's been going on for 2 years. They've been working on a project on this property here. It's kind of like a contractor yard for data centers. It's like a little data factory where they put these servers in small, what they call polycloud pods outside. Now this is the IP zone, so they still have to have their buildings, there's a level parking area, they have to do the landscaping, do all that stuff. And this is going to operate very similar to like a contracting yard that you see where, like here, where you have the main building and then a lot of storage, except their storage is going to be servers. The reason they want it here is because they can plug into CEC for their power and avoid Pacific Power. CEC is cheaper, and they're really interested in getting these guys online. So that's why they're looking at that site. We got those two industrial properties going on. The Merle program, the council did adopt the ordinance. The Merle program, if you remember, is the Middle Income Revolving Loan Fund. It's a state program that allows communities to basically take a part in and allow, say, a subdivision or some housing project to apply to the city for a specific project. If they do this, they can get some funding from this revolving loan fund that helps them build infrastructure or do a down payment on property or whatever it might be. In exchange, they reduce the pricing price to 120% of area median income. So that's the trade-off. We'll see if anybody takes advantage of it, but they did adopt the ordinance. We have to work through the application process and all the assessor stuff, but We expect at least one project to probably look at taking advantage of that.
And
You-
that would be, do you know where?
Potentially this one could. And that might help build that roundabout. That could be one, if he's willing to cap some of his lots. That's it's kind of an interesting thing, because there are communities, there's only one other community that has actually applied for something, that's Tillamook County. And some of them look at a portion of their subdivision that they'll cap, and then the rest of it they don't. And then how much money can they get in part of the loan fund to help build that? Does it make sense? They got to go through their whole pro forma, but that project I could see. I could see something happening over on the Iron Horse area that we've been discussing. There's not a whole lot of low-hanging fruit left that are easily built. You can see something on the Lynch property, maybe. Any of these large flat land that, I theoretically you could see something down here, though I don't think that would happen down here. I think Colson and the White Deer and the old Anglers Canyon developments will do more of a higher end stuff, but never know. Any one of these projects could take advantage of it. There's only limited funds at the state. It's only 55 million for the entire state that they have to loan out. So this is really meant to be gap funding. So you have a project and it's going to cost you $100 million to do it. And man, you just can't do it unless you had $15 million left, and what does that look like, and how do you cap your prices? How many homes do you have? Can you actually pay it back in 10 years? That kind of stuff all comes into play. So it's a little more complicated than just applying, but they did end up doing the ordinance. So put that tool in the toolbox. I'm still working on doing the sewer model upgrade. So we have everything mapped in our water and sewer system and our stormwater system. We're going to a new GIS system that's a little more geared towards engineers. So when we model our water and sewer system, they're not taking a kind of a rickety GIS system and trying to work it into the modeling system. We're actually now converting it all to a model system, and then we'll export it into GIS. So it has all of the things that engineers are looking for. So we've done the water already, and now I'm working on doing the sewer. We're doing that in conjunction with the design for all of our unconnected areas. So all the areas of our city that don't have water and sewer, we are under contract with Anderson Perry to design those areas. That includes stuff outside the city, like in the Willowdale, Melrose area. We'll figure out how this is going to work down here. It includes stuff inside the city that doesn't currently have water, like in the Lynn Boulevard area. We'll design all the water and sewer Crestview area. Sea Hale is another big one for water. And then we have a lot of these little pockets, like on the Madras Highway. None of these have water. And there's years ago in the 90s, they put like a 2-inch line across here that can't serve anymore. So how do these guys get water? Do they each get individual lines? Do we bring an 8-inch across? All those things are going to get figured out with this project. Dodson really needs water for these guys. This is another one of those little 2-inch lines they threw in there. It's out of capacity. So we're trying to plug and play all of those. These guys' septic is failing. How do we get it out? That's just going to be a pressure system, but we'll have that designed and on a shelf ready to go.
I'm sorry, where is that?
This is out Madras Highway. What's it called? Green Acres Mobile Park, I think. So all those unconnected areas. And so we tagged on this upgrade to our sewer model in conjunction with that. That's out there happening.
You seem to have been getting quite a bit of publicity on the water storage.
We did do yeah, that came up recently. I think it had to do with a lot of the data center topics that have been coming up, and how, how does our system work? And so that aquifer storage and recovery system, which they paid for and built for us, they're also building that. I think we were talking about it before the meeting. They built, first of all, the treatment facility here. They built the well field here on the Crooked River Park. They built the booster here. They built the lines, go up the hill. There's a water line, a sewer line, a brine line, and a it's kind of like a secondary reuse water line that could be used for, originally it was designed to take our sewage water up. After we cleaned it, we would pump it up, use it for cooling and let it come down. So there's actually 4 lines in the ground, only 2 of them being used right now. Water comes up the hill, pumps into our system, we inject it currently in this well, which they also paid for. Big 30-inch water lines coming down, which they also paid for. And they are currently building this well for us. That's $3.2 million worth of water infrastructure in just that well. That'll be our second aquifer storage and recovery well, so we'll have 2 ways of injecting and recovering. So if we lose one for some reason, we're not out. So that was important to them as well. So that's why they committed to helping pay for that. Not help, they are paying for that. And so we've managed to kind of cap our storage at about, we were at 600. I think we're now at about 500 million because we've been using some of it. But it's working, and then we'll explore. If you really want to go long range, we're going to start exploring on the other side of the airport where we know the aquifer is kind of curving around, and to see how we can actually eventually do some kind of well infrastructure over there. Because eventually we're going to have to loop our water system around so that we can actually serve all this area, which some of that is already in the city. We look at our zoning, a lot of the airports in the city, and then we have this 160. This is probably where our city will expand in the future, onto the state lands here, and maybe the Legacy Ranch kind of this way, since we were blocked by solar pretty much on our southern area. With all the solar development, we can't really expand our city south. We're blocked. So this is probably where we're going to end up. So it works. It's just instead of building on a flatter piece of ground, we're going to be building on a little bit more of a hill, but oh well. So yeah, so that's been coming up, and how do we manage our water system and how that works for us has been a topic of conversation. And the last 2 things I will talk about, unless you guys have questions, we have 2 projects coming up on our next hearing at
That small data center has it been leased or occupied or?
Oppenden,
Bill?
this one.
Yeah.
It's going to be leased, I believe. I don't think it's
No.
operational. It's not operational yet. No, it's not populated. But I believe it's a leased facility. I think Meta is actually going to lease it. I don't know why or the purpose of it, but there it is. They have room for another building. They just don't have the power yet to do it, or they haven't allocated it yet. Next week, July 21st will be our next meeting. I think we'll have 2 projects on that. One of them I'll just share so you know about it. We're going to send the notices out here pretty quick and get rid of these utilities that you can see. Kind of a unique one. It's not really unique, but it's different. And there's, where am I? Deer Street. Here we go. Many of you know the Bella Boutique, used to be Bella Boutique retail shop. It was brought back to a house in 2020. It's sitting in a residential zone. Somebody wants to use it for a real estate office, convert it back. The issue is it never should have been commercial to begin with because it wasn't on a collector. Deer Street is a collector to this point, and so a lot of the topic of conversation will be whether that qualifies that corner lot as a for professional commercial use. Basically, they're going to argue that it is. I really don't care. We'll see what the neighbors think. It was used for commercial before. We never had any issues. That was retail. This would just be a real estate office. So professional commercial office. So that's what we'll talk about there. That'll be on the next meeting. And we will have a significant subdivision here, which we just talked about could be a Merle project. So with the Merle projects, doesn't say whether you can do one before the other. You can actually get your approval and still apply for the Merle project, or you can apply and then do your project. It doesn't really matter. I expect them to, they're basically building out part of the Iron Horse ODP. They're doing a higher density project, which makes sense next to commercial and the school and the park. But it is all single family and they're going to have some commercial with it. Commercial won't be built. If you guys remember when Iron Horse originally did their ODP in 2005, there was a commercial area designed for it. It's actually up here. Well, the city owns that now, so we're not going to build commercial there. So they're going to basically ask, we're just going to move it down here as part of that project. Still basically meets the intent of the ODP. It's just not exactly where it is on the map. So
What kind of commercial?
they're not entirely sure yet. So they're leaving it open for future build. The region they're going to build the homes first and leave these commercial designated areas. My guess is they'll probably either works out or it doesn't, and they convert them back to homes, or they do apartments, or they do something different with it. Or they do some kind of smaller commercial, neighborhood commercial below, residential above. And that's what they work on, because it's what that commercial area was designated on the ODP was mixed use. It wasn't actually just commercial. It was designed to be mixed use, commercial and residential. So that's kind of what they're gunning for. And then if this project works out for them, it'll kickstart the next phases, and those will probably be larger lot, more. As you move up the hill, they'll get to larger homes and larger lots. So those two projects will be at their next. Hopefully, we haven't noticed them yet. I know we'll do the real estate office. This one I got to dig into to make sure I have enough information to get it to you guys. But
Is gonna trigger the road looping around the school.
yes, so we talked about that before, right? I knew this project was kind of coming when Brett Morgan did his subdivision down here. So this will help the traffic situation with the school because it'll loop it all the way back around to the roundabout. And so we'll complete that cycle. There will be no connection here. We talked about it. The traffic just does not work. And so you'll actually just have this open road here where the school could add an access here potentially and do something different. It gives options to the school to help their traffic. And then we'll just have a pedestrian connection to the walkway there. But you'll see that design come through in your packet in a few weeks. So
The reason I asked about what kind of commercial was reading an article in the bulletin about how they're trying to bring back neighborhood shopping where people
Yep.
can walk to.
Yep,
a
that's the
small
idea.
Grocery store, a bar.
I think that's the idea. It's hard when you have commercial right here. You're kind of already in walking distance. I think they'll try to gear it more towards residential. I think they're also banking on potential rec center being there. And so you'll get this influence. You could also be the commercial for the rec center. I think that's part of it. Again, if some of that doesn't work out, it may sit there a while and maybe they come back and say it's not working out. We're just gonna make it homes. But we'll see. That'll be kind of that. We'll see if we have any comments from neighbor. I think it would make a cool little commercial area, but it's hard to make commercial work like that. Even in the downtown, it's not easy. So you have to have that traffic.
Since you brought it up, rec center.
Yeah. We went through the feasibility study. For the full gambit, the big 50-meter pool, 6 basketball courts, everything you saw in that deal, that pushes it up to, a $200 million project, right? We knew that was going to happen. Probably not something feasible that we would do, but we wanted to know that it could fit and what it would cost. Most likely, we're going to bring this down to something more like what Redmond's building. If you go over to 27th Street, or maybe as you're going out towards Sisters, you look off to the left past the big church, you'll see,
Island Baptist.
yeah, you'll see the rec center they're building there. We toured that. That was about a $56 million project. They have a lot of outdoor stuff as well. 25-meter pool, only one basketball court that can be flipped to 2 short courts. I think they should have went just a little bit more and done 2 full courts, but that's what I'd like to see here. But that project is built and designed and ready to go. We might be able to plug and play, and then still have the ability to expand it in the future and move out. So that's kind of where we're sitting now, but council has not been addressed on that yet. I think there's going to be some debate at the council level on which direction we want to go, and do we go out for a bond? Do we try to just do the pool first and then add the rec later? There's all these different kinds of ways we can break it up.
Well, and it's still Parks and Rec District, right?
So it'll be a city facility. Right now, this is what we're thinking. It'll be a city-owned facility that Parks runs for us. So we don't have to do you would be a construction bond, not necessarily a maintenance bond, because that would be covered through, theoretically, the taxes from the data centers. Will cover the cost. And there'll be costs that, all the activities and things that people rent the facility for, and all those things, dues and things come in. There's a whole pro forma on how much this thing can actually generate, but it will have to be subsidized. Pools are always subsidized. It's just how it is. And so that we believe is feasible with just going out for a construction bond. The other option would be doing a revenue bond and just saying, no, we think we can cover this between all the districts, city, county, and parks. We feel like we have enough money to cover the bond, and then we wouldn't have to go to the voters. I think that's actually how Redmond did theirs. Or maybe it was Bend. Somebody went, no, I'm sorry. I'm getting this confused. Medford did that.
Because I was gonna say that I know that Redmond's went.
Yeah, they did do a bond. And Medford, we looked at their facility and they had trouble getting it going, couldn't get it passed, and they eventually just did a revenue bond.
I'm not sure what, I know that the construction part passed and the maintenance did not.
I think that was
For
how
Redmond.
ours did the same happened last time. If one didn't pass, the other failed, even though if it passed, they both had to pass or they both failed.
Well, and that's not the way Redmond did.
Redmond
theirs.
did it separately,
They
and
did it
so
separately.
we were
So-
nervous last time. I know the Parks was nervous about it last time because if you didn't have the one, it was going to fail. Like Madras, eventually ended up. They deferred all their maintenance for so long that eventually they had to stop.
Yeah,
close it down.
and so what, I know one of the things that they're going to do is Parks is no longer gonna run the Cascade Swim Center. It's gonna go back to the school. And so all the monies that goes into maintaining Cascade Swim Center will go into the new pool. And the employees and everything move.
Yeah.
So,
So it'll be interesting. I expect something to happen on that front eventually. I'm just not sure when they're gonna move forward with revealing. I imagine it's gonna be at a council meeting at some point, so. Yeah. And that is all I have.
Okay, anything else commission would like to talk about? No? No, then we ready to adjourn?
sure,
Okay.
I'm all in for a 40-minute meeting.
See y'all on the 21st
We're adjourned,
July.
21st July, yep.